And that makes me feel good inside. As nerve-wracking as it is sometimes to do these shows, my need to get out there and talk to people and give them the alternative ways of being is being met. And especially having wonderful people like you come on the show makes me feel fulfilled, like I'm doing what I was meant to do.
Well, thank you.
Was that a good sharing, Norman?
I don't know if we're good or not, but I enjoyed it.
No, but, because there is a concern that we have that, like you said earlier, we don't want to sound like we're getting too technical or too fake or, because that's my concern, when I'm talking with people and I'm getting them to share and whatnot. So that's why I asked you, is that a good sharing?
Well, what it brought up for me as you were sharing there, it reminded me of one of my understandings of nonviolent communication, which is that we never do anything for anyone else. Everything we're doing, we're always doing for ourselves. In other words, I don't do anything for anyone else. So I'll give you an example to make it more clear. When I first started sharing nonviolent communication, I decided to do monthly introductions and practice group. And at first I thought, okay, I'm doing this because I want to share it. And it's good for other people. But I really had to connect with what need of mine am I meeting by doing this. And I realized that that I didn't want to be alone. I wanted other people to have this kind of awareness, these skills, so that I didn't have to be the only one doing it. That sometimes I could have a break and I'd have the support of others around me.
Beautiful, yeah.
So when I had that, it made it much easier, much clearer. Because if I go around thinking I'm doing it for them, it puts me in the same position. I guess my daughter made it very clear to me when I was telling her about how great nonviolent communication is and she should really have it in her life. She says, Dad, if it's so damn good, why don't you just use it yourself? And it was the hardest message, but the best message I was ever given.
Fascinating.
Because if I'm just talking about it and trying to get others to do it and I'm not living it myself, what's the point? So she really, you hear from your children, from the mouths of babes.
Yes.
So it was one of the greatest
It's the tough
gifts.
ones, yeah.
So that kind of describes what I'm talking about, I think, with that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that personal moment. And I'll let our listeners know once again they're listening to 99.1 FM CIDI, Radio Communautaire de Brome-Missisquoi. And the show is brought to you by the Sunshinecenter. I'm your host, Ilya Kavoukas, and we're talking about nonviolent communication, and we're going to have, I'll mention once again that we're having a workshop on the 21st of January, where Norman's wife, Gina, will be giving the workshop. She's trained by Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication, and the workshop will be in French for all the French-speaking people in the townships that are interested, or English-speaking townshipers that can understand French. It's worth coming and stretching your ear, your French ear. So, Norman, maybe you can let our listeners know more or less what they expect. What could they expect from the workshop on the 21st?
Well, I don't know the exact details of the workshop, but participants can expect an experiential time. It'll be a chance to really experience through some exercises and practicing something, whatever Gina shares, in the moment. So it's not just going to be a lecture type of thing. It'll be an experiential thing. And in addition, Gina tends to, probably not in a one-day workshop like this, but in a lot of her work she includes singing and dance with things.
No kidding?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Wonderful.
No, it's...
Get the energy moving.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe provoke some emotions.
Yes.
and then it's like, okay, let's work on that.
Yeah.
I like that.
But expect a wonderful, very stimulating time if you come to the workshop, because Gina has such a depth of background to call from, and has so many things that she can offer and pull. And the exercises, the experience will vary depending on who's there, because she's very tuned in to who's there in the workshop. So no workshop is exactly the same. She doesn't work from a template. She definitely works in the moment. Mm-hmm. She has so many tools to pull from that she can respond directly to what's going on and make it tailored to fit the needs in the moment.
Wonderful, wonderful. And may I ask you for an example? Is that an example coming up in your memory at this moment?
An example
of something maybe you've experienced in a workshop of hers that you might want to share with our listeners? Yes or no? It's not obligatory.
Well, there's one. I mean, I'd been around nonviolent communication for quite a while, and I just met Gina 3 years ago. So she really tapped in for me a different perspective on nonviolent communication, which I really valued, and it meant a lot to me. So this is a very simple exercise, I remember, but it profoundly affected me. And it was just, we broke up in groups of 2, and you'd sit opposite someone, and I believe we just said a word that came up based on what we were feeling in the moment. And the other person would just sit there and take it in. And then they would share a word. And it just kind of goes back and forth. And when you say something, it's not in response to the other person. It's just what's alive inside of you. Mm-hmm. And what it got me in touch with was my own, what I call my own internal weather system. Because I could actually feel when someone said a word, my partner said a word, that things would shift and move around inside of my body. You know, in my abdomen, my solar plexus, my chest, things would start moving. And after a minute, then a word would come up to me, but it was after these things shifted. And that would keep playing out. So I got a sense of that interconnectedness that we have, which is one of the concepts of nonviolent communication. That if we do something at the expense of someone else, we're going to suffer. That we are interconnected. And that we want to take that into consideration. We want to value other people's needs as much as our own. So that really helped me experience that, how we are interconnected.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That was so appropriate. And I'd like to let our listeners know that they can come and experience new things as well, and get in touch with their own internal weather system. I love that. On the 21st of January at the Sunshine Center, you can reach us at 450-538-1111 or sunshinecenter.ca is our website. And thank you so much, Norman, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Elia, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.